The other day, I went into town and decided to stop into one of the pawn shops we have. Now, I like this pawn shop because it's the only one that has swords. Unfortunately, these swords they have, in heavy quotations, are the very plasticky, cheap wall hanger katanas where you're not even sure if they're made of metal and the handles are shiny. So imagine my surprise then when I went to the opposite corner of the store and I found this guy propped up against the wall. Now, I was very surprised to see it, and I admit I didn't know what brand it was at first. Obviously, I knew it was a Kriegsmesser. But I went up, I popped it out of the sheath, I realized that it was sharp carbon steel, and I snagged it. They only wanted 55 for this, which is ridiculous, given that the plasticky katanas were 45. So they clearly had no idea what they had. So I grabbed it and left, and went home, and the only thing I could think of was that Cold Steel made a budget messer like this. And sure enough, after doing a bit of identification, this is absolutely the Cold Steel Kriegsmesser. They sell it as the Grossmesser, but you know what it is. The easy way to tell that it is a Cold Steel sword is that it has that ring nagel, the straight tapered crossguard, and of course the fact that it is 3.5 pounds with no taper either way. So, all the things that I had always heard about Cold Steel swords being sharpened crowbars, yes, I immediately felt that to be true. But yes, here you have it. I somehow managed to snag a Cold Steel Messer for $55. I don't know the story behind it. I asked them and they didn't know. I'm figuring some parent went and sold her son stuff because nobody would sell this for that cheap knowing what it is. So something cool about this sword was that I could tell it was used for cutting. It had little nicks in it and it had the telltale scratches that I see when I cut bottles. That's another reason I wanted to ask who owned it. I figured I'd be good friends with them. So after a lot of sharpening, the most work I've ever put into a sword, which I'll probably talk about some other time, I finally got it ready for cutting, and it's been really fun to cut with. Now, a 3.5 pound sword with a 5.5 inch point of balance is not exactly the best match for somebody with a half atrophied skeleton hand. Nevertheless, I have a lot of fun with it. It's not like this is going to get me back into European stuff or HEMA. I jumped that ship like 5 years ago. But it's still a lot of fun, and I'm always down to have something different in my collection. I'm not sure if any of my viewers have been around long enough to remember this, but besides the windless Bosworth longsword, I used to own the Cold Steel Greatsword as well. Both of these swords I sold, then becoming the katana man you all know me as today. So there is something cool about it to me that this messer found its way into my life and is kind of reminding me of how things were when I first started out. Now, pretty soon I am planning to do a full review of this sword, although I admit there isn't much point in it. Just a month or two ago, Cold Steel released a new Kriegsmesser, which very clearly addresses and fixes the issues this sword has, so things I'm going to complain about, like the taper and weight, were all addressed with the new model. Nevertheless, I'm always starved for content, so why not review this in case somebody else finds one lying around in a pawn shop. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.